Okay, hello. Hello, everyone. So I am super excited, a little bit nervous, but super excited for today's chat. I'm going to open up the chat box here. So I wanted to talk about this. I know a couple of weeks ago I sent a rundown of topics that I would be discussing over the next several weeks. And next week is going to be the semaglutide, or however the hell you say it, the Wegovy, Ozempic type of stuff. I know that was really one you guys wanted. So that's coming next week. However, with the changing of the seasons, I had my meeting with the coaches over the weekend, and something that came up was something that's common every year around this time. And I don't think that we even recognize it because obviously after the holidays is it's like the big, new year, new you kind of crap, right? But we really see a change in mindset happen leaving the summer, going into the fall where it's going to be a lot more homey. It just makes you realize maybe if you're not where you want to be, and not for nothing, summertime, we're enjoying ourselves more. We might not be feeling our best come the end of summertime. So really we hit this mental kind of roadblock at this time. And this is whether you're with us in CCA in the first program, whether you're in KGG and you've been with us for a while, we see it all the time. And clients get more distant during the summer, or maybe you're watching this as a new client, and you haven't even really been here long enough to get connected, but either way, coming back into the fall, I don't know if you guys can agree, but sometimes you feel a little bit out of touch. So I really wanted to divert away from doing the semaglutide one to focus on this. And that is the biggest roadblock when it comes to getting the results that we actually want is our idea of how that should be happening. Because it's different for everybody. We all know that. It's slower for us. We all hear that all the time, but I don't think we really understand it fully, And I think that if we don't pay attention to the mindset side of things, when we are feeling out of touch and we are just falling back into old patterns, old beliefs and everything, I think it's just, we stay on the merry-go-round all the time, and we never get to where we want to be. Not authentically, not fully, not sustainably. So I want to talk about when slow progress becomes a roadblock. So we're going to start off with my story because I can definitely relate to a lot of it. When I hear you guys getting frustrated, discouraged, super, super relatable. Okay. I had faced trauma at a really young age. And I've said this before, not everybody who's in here has to have trauma in their past. Trauma also doesn't have to be abuse. Trauma can be parents splitting up. It could be loss. It could be moving a lot. It could be just anything that really pulled the wool out from under, or I think I messed up. Pulled the rug out from under you, not the wool over your eyes, but pulled the rug out from under you. Anything that jilted you when you were young, that counts. And it's very common among people that have autoimmune issues, hormonal imbalances. There is a studied connection there. So for me, my abuse started, I was about 4 years old until about the time that I was about 8. It was a family member, that is an awful, awful human being who still walks the earth somehow. But, ultimately that set me up because I was diagnosed with diabetes at 7, so type 1 diabetes differs a lot, but it is a life-threatening illness. Like it's different than type 2 by a long shot. Okay. Type 1 is you need to learn how to keep yourself alive. And I was 7. So with that came other diagnoses, right? Like I got boobs before everybody else. I got my period before everybody else. I was hairy. I was tall, the whole nine. I was awkward. I was heavy. I started getting weight issues, the whole bit. And I had to give myself about 15 shots a day to stay alive, right? So childhood was really character building. Let's just say that. When I got diagnosed with PCOS, I didn't even understand what the hell it was. I just thought to myself, if I could lose weight, now I think I was 12 when I was diagnosed, put on birth control at 15. Because from 12 to 15, it was, you just have to lose weight. Now, I don't want any kid to ever have to deal with that because that sucked. That really sucked. Now, mind you, throughout this, came other diagnoses. I got Hashimoto's shortly after getting my PCOS diagnosis, asthma, colitis, which is not great in your early 20s. That's when I was diagnosed. Gastritis, and then eventually mixed connective tissue disease, which includes rheumatoid arthritis and scleroderma. And I think there's like a few more in there that don't really matter anymore, so I forget about them, which is cool. But throughout that whole time, all I wanted to do was lose weight. Throughout all of those hospitalizations, throughout all of that trauma, through dealing with the trauma, my household was not exactly the most comforting environment to be dealing with trauma, right? So all I cared about was losing weight during all of that. That's wild to me. Back then, it felt like that's what I had to do because I needed to lose weight. So what else was I going to do besides think about that constantly and try and do everything I could to be good at it, even at that young an age, right? So, see, I mean, enough for nothing. I grew up, this was like in the early 2000s, vicious, like absolutely vicious. It was just common in pop culture to be awfully like fat shaming, and it was just terrible, right? So I thought I was being healthier by hating myself as much as it seemed everyone else was hating on me, because if I didn't, then I was accepting being obese, and oh my God, how could I do that? That's what I grew up in. Okay, forget about the fashion and the low-rise jeans. I look like I was a realtor at the age of like 13 onward, because nothing fit. So besides all that, I decided when I got to working age that I was going to, like, I shouldn't say working age because I started working out when I was like 16, but I was like college age, right? So working, where the hell did I work at the time? I think I worked at, I was a host at the time, right? So I was like, I'm going to work extra shifts. I'm going to figure it out. But ultimately, the reason that's important is because it was $3,500 for my salvation, guys, this medical weight loss program that promised me 30 pounds lost in like 3 months, 12 weeks. And it was going to tell me everything I needed to do. It was going to tell me what to eat for every single meal. I didn't have to think about anything. And I was going to lose 30 pounds. It was amazing. It was $3,500 at that time, like early 2000s. So I figured it out. I was over 18. I think I got like a little credit card. I put it on, some of it on that, like it was crazy. I had to figure out how to do it because I mean, a doctor ran it and they're guaranteeing, I mean, they didn't say they would give me my money back if I didn't lose weight, but they guaranteed I was going to lose 30 pounds in 3 months. Finally. Not to mention my mom was doing the program. That's how I found out about it. And they had put her on the same protocol, but they had also put her on phentermine, like she had to do an extra like B12 shot every week, like all this. I couldn't afford all that stuff. So, but I was like, hey, if this is working for my mom, who has a whole history of eating disorders, like her whole life has been one big eating disorder, right? I was like, if it's working for my mom, it's going to work for me. So I was going to my meetings every week, not really seeing a change, not feeling a change. I was actually miserable. This was the least healthy I've ever felt in my life. I drank the friggin' smoothies that I had to buy from her for my breakfast, and they were like $4 each, which was crazy for me at the time. I mean, it still is kind of like for one drink, but anyway, I had to eat like the mandated portions and meals that this person assigned to me. I had to get weighed in every single week. I had to get my body composition taken in every single week. It was relentless. But I was like, it's 3 months. It's 3 months to 30 pounds. About a month in, I started getting really upset. And I went to her and I told her this, and she said, well, you obviously have to start weighing out your food so you can make sure that you're not overeating, because, which is just insane to me that a medical doctor can sit there. Now it's insane to me. Back then I was like, oh, you're right. I need to go buy this somehow because I had no money. It went into that program, so it's just nuts that a doctor could ever look at someone in the face and tell them that an ounce more of this vegetable, she wasn't having to eat anything crazy like chicken and spinach and stuff like that, is really going to be the thing that makes it or breaks it. It was anything to just keep me going, really. And I was like, okay, I got to trust the process. I got to trust the process. I didn't weigh myself at home at this point because I was just so upset. So I would have panic attacks before going to my weekly meetings because that was going to be, did I lose something? Did I lose something? It was so unhealthy. And in the end, I gained 3 pounds. And I remember like I was crying and she looked at me and she was like, why are you crying? You did this. Like, are you sure you haven't been sneaking sweets and chocolate? Not once in this medical weight loss program did my illnesses come up. Not once did she ask how my blood sugars were doing, how how my PCOS was doing, how my Hashimoto's was doing. At no point did she take any of that into consideration. If anything, she used my mom's case against me because she was like, your mom has Hashimoto's. Why has she been able to lose the weight? That was the most traumatic. And like I paid somebody to completely gut me. Like I was like a shell of a person after that for a while. I barely ate. I wouldn't see anyone. I would just go to the gym. I switched. I started working at a gym so that I could get free membership there. And I just went, like I would do my whole shift and then I would go for 2-3 hours afterwards. And I would just anger run and just try my hardest to work out just so I wasn't that like fat, lazy, awful person that I felt like in her office. So it was very traumatic. Please feel free if you have ever experienced anything similar, put it in the chat because you guys hear me talk about this stuff pretty, regularly, but I think what really is impactful is when you guys start relating to each other because this is extreme and not every situation I hear is like this, but I hear similarities from my clients all the time, and it's really, really terrible. Compulsive Eaters Anonymous when I was 16. Oy. Yeah. No, I was like 12 and I was like, I really got to lose weight. I remember I went for an eye exam. This was when I was really little. I was like maybe 8. And I went for an eye exam. And the doctor was like a family doctor, like he was like a family friend that we went to. I'm Greek, so he was a Greek doctor that we knew of, and nearby. So all the Greeks went to him and everything. So like, and he worked with my mom, my whole family. So I remember him going for my eye appointment. My eyes were fine, and he looks at me and he goes, "Remember, when it comes to eating, white is not right." I still remember this to this day. Like I could close my eyes and picture it. He goes, "No white bread, no white sugar, no white rice. Avoid those things because you're young and you don't want to grow up and not get married." Like a fat little unknown gay kid that was sitting there like, okay, when am I getting married? Like little, I had no idea what the hell was going on. And here I am like, oh God, I'm not going to get married. Like I was 8. I didn't need that anxiety for something I didn't even understand. But when you're a certain size, I mean, it's better now, but like you're fair game for commentary and assumption. And I get wanting that to go away as quick as possible at any cost because it feels unbearable at times. It's like you're wearing a giant sign that is like, misunderstand me. It's like a nightmare, so I get it. I tried to do the fastest thing I could find with like a whole doctor and everything attached to it. And yet and yet you read my posts and you see and you hear each other's stories and it's not enough, because it's the wrong thing to look at. Oh, it was brutal. I could give you stories all day. So, okay, fast forward to meeting Nick. Now, mind you, oh wait, no, I can't fast forward yet. I had, after this point, I had 2 more assaults. I was sexually assaulted when I was 16. And that led me to be hypersexual growing up, which a lot of times we talk about sexuality, like if you have sexual abuse, that you are not a very sexual person. But it can go the other way, which doesn't get talked about because there's a lot of shame behind it. And I was a hypersexual person. I was a destructive person. Needless to say, I had a really rough go of it. I was messed up, you know? And throughout that, you know, after the abuse, because I had put myself there, I blamed myself so much for it that all I wanted to do, that I thought, I didn't think of therapy. I didn't think of like maybe reading some self-help shit, nothing. All I could think about was having a thin body, going out, because I would meet somebody who wouldn't think of me as just desperate and like all these awful, awful things that I said to myself. Then that's where my brain was. That's where I was. So when I tell you, I get not having the logical perception of your body and wanting weight loss above all else, having these illnesses. And my whole life, that was the theme of my whole life growing up. I get it, you know? So fast forward to meeting Nick. Now we can fast forward. And I pushed him away for a while because I had all of this background, had all this destructive past. I couldn't understand why this person was attracted to me. And once we established that he didn't have seemingly didn't have ulterior motives, like, how could you be attracted to me? Like, I feel bad that you're attracted to me. I remember telling him that. Like, I feel bad that you care about me. I wish you didn't care about me so you can go find somebody who's like easier, prettier, thinner, the whole bit. This is unhealthy. Super, super unhealthy. You know, we were in couples therapy for a while. A lot of it is not because, you know, we were on the brink of breaking up, but it was because we needed help understanding each other because I was a mess. It's been a lot of work to get out of that muck, you know? And I remember thinking that one day I was just researching depression and dieting. Like, I started thinking to myself, like, I know a lot of people who feel really frustrated with this stuff. Like, I saw the groups online and stuff, and I was like, let me look this up. If there's like maybe something about being depressed is making this harder. And I found the Minnesota Starvation Experiment. And a lot of you have heard me say this over and over again. I'm gonna tell you again. Minnesota Starvation Experiment is like what led me to creating CCA. It was done in the 40s after they had liberated camps and stuff like that, starvation. They didn't know what would happen after somebody went for a prolonged period of time without eating. What would happen once you reintroduced food? Once you could just eat again normally, what would happen? So they wanted to study this in a way that only they could in the 40s. And they locked up a bunch of willing participants, I think. And these participants were like clean slates, quote unquote. They were all men back then. That made you a clean slate. And they had no health issues. They had no history of dieting. They did all these psychiatric evaluations to make sure that they weren't aggressive or, you know, just make sure they were as like hunky-dory as possible, right? And then they were going to slowly start restricting their food and note what would happen. And then they would start slowly adding food back and they would note what happened. This did not start as a weight loss study. One of the creators went on to be one of the contributors to the BMI, which pisses me off, but that's a whole other topic. But originally, this was not meant for weight loss purposes. This is not meant to draw parallels to dieting or anything. But what happened was they started noticing huge behavioral changes when they started reducing people's calories. Now, again, these people had never reduced any calories in their life, right? They were eating about 3,500 calories a day. When they cut it down, I'm having a brain fart on the numbers, but I believe it's once they cut them down to 2,500 calories a day, they started noting aggression and self-doubt and disdain with their everyday lives, self-image issues, jealousy issues, social issues, depression, anxiety. All of these things started popping up unprovoked in a controlled environment where the only difference was restricting calories and not even for a weight loss reason. I realized that we collectively are screwing ourselves into continuously dieting because here's the kicker. You'd think when they introduced food back that this would all stop, right? It permanently changed these people. One bout of calorie restriction permanently changed these people. No one was the same. There were a lot of really nasty consequences, but like most of them had eating disorders the rest of their lives. Many of them had metabolic disorders and issues maintaining their weight, and they were fine before. So I started thinking, I guess we're all just really stuck. Like, I guess if trying to diet is the wrong way, and I don't know how the hell to eat, and that's the wrong way, why am I like, how do I lose weight here? And I said to myself, I think the key is just to not care about losing weight. And I know that sounds really oversimplified because it wasn't like abracadabra. I no longer care. It took years of work, right? But I remember thinking that Nick deserved for me to be okay with accepting the fact that he was attracted to me. He deserved to have a partner who wasn't always upset about the way they looked when that no one else was. No one else around me was upset with the way that I looked. And then at the end of the day, to know this study existed that showed us that we're perpetuating this. We are making this harder on ourselves. It led me into researching binge patterns and binge psychology, led me into researching sweet cravings and how it differs with insulin resistance. It like opened this Pandora's box of, oh my God, it's not only because I sit around eating too many Twinkies every day. Because you'd think the fact that I was my heaviest when I ate the least, maybe that would have dawned on me. But no, I disliked myself too much for that logic to make sense. To let go of that control and not diet and care and have a rampant eating disorder, like to actually get rid of that meant I was losing my shot at what? I wasn't thin anyway. So I literally just said, screw it. If I can't be thin, I can't be thin. I look this way, I look this way. I need to be healthy and I need to be happy. I need to feel better and I need to be happy because the name of this Zoom, the days pass anyway. 10 years are going to pass, you know, I mean, any one of us could get hit by a bus tomorrow, but, you know, God or whatever you believe in willing, like 10 years from now is 10 years from now. Is it going to be 10 years filled of misery trying to be thin? Or is it going to be filled with 10 years of feeling good, enjoying memories with people I'm not guaranteed to have around, you know, like all of that. I would rather fill up my 10 years with that. It is what it is. You know, and that's what I said. And it took me 2.5 years to lose my 80 pounds. And it took me about 6 months, I want to say, to be able to notice that weight at all because I stopped looking for it. I stopped looking for it. I stopped sitting there at the front door like, are they here? Is it here yet? Is it here yet? Because then every minute feels miserable because it ain't here. I just decided to focus on other things, focus on things that still help me feel good. Mentally was the most important. And physically, I needed to learn my body. I needed to take that time. And the idea of waiting every day to be a different size just made no sense to me when I had to focus on so many other things. But it did lead to that in the end because I put myself in the best spot for that to happen, not because I was out there trying to lose weight. You know, what else did I have written here? Sorry, my notes are like a novel tonight. So it took me 6 months to lose that weight, right? And the funny thing is, I put it back within 2 weeks because I started hyperfixating on it. Oh, okay. Well, what could I do more of? Well, did I eat that thing? Is that going to affect it? Am I going to, oh, I knew this is too good to be true. Damn it. I already knew. Well, I ate too much yesterday. I'm not going to eat as much. I was still messed up. Like it wasn't an overnight, like, poof, you good. Nope. That's when I realized I have to learn how to do this sustainably. I have to learn how to not care about this anymore because my symptoms are going to ebb and flow. You have flares, you don't have flares, you feel great, sometimes you don't feel great. That's the territory when you have incurable illnesses. Like where does that play into all of this, you know? So for me to isolate one single symptom meant I was always going to be inconsistent because I'm always just chasing after one facet of a whole illness. There's more to it. There's so much more to it. So, you know, you've been dieting for how many years now? And think back to when you guys first started, because some of you watching this have been like, I'm in CCA, you know, but before then, like how many years of dieting and everyone telling you that you're supposed to lose weight and like all of that compared to the amount of time that you want to spend on self-acceptance, on body neutrality, on learning not to chase weight only as its own thing. You know, like you can't compare the two and just be like, why am I not getting it yet? It takes time. This was years ago that this all happened. In the meantime, you guys have heard my pandemic situation, the stress of the pandemic, eating sushi a few times that week, bam, symptoms like crazy. Weight, skin, hair. It took me 2 years after that to get back to where I was. I'm not immune. I'm slow as hell with this stuff. You know, so really, what is the pressure doing? It's not getting it any faster. It's not going to help you. It's not going to serve you. The rush, the pressure of it, all of it is just a distraction from being deeply unhappy with ourselves and hoping that one day we wake up and look in the mirror and go, oh, good. I look good now. I look thin. Like, when is that going to happen? There's a lot of time between that, right? The day's got to pass anyway. So how can we help you any differently now if we don't take that time to fix that stuff? If we don't take the time to not put the pressure of time on the issue, because you could want what you want. I could want to be born with trust fund, right? It didn't happen. That would have been nice, but it didn't happen, you know? So how can we snap our fingers and be like, poof, it's all better? Can't happen, you know? I try to set my programs at 6 to 9 months. Now we really just stick to the 9-month programs because, and the industry standard, just like my doctor's medical weight loss program, the industry standard is 3 months. And a lot of the reason for that is because it's to enroll you in another longer program quicker. It's to get you hooked on the possibility of change and then throw you into another program that's a lot longer. And I don't want to do that. Now, I'm not going to have years long programs out the gate. That's why I try to stick to 9 months. But even that, and this is not a plug, but even that's not a long enough time. Like I said, it took me 6 months to even see that I had lost anything. And then it came back and then I had work to do, you know? I have people in KGG with me for years now. It takes time. Even a diabetic or non-diabetic A1C, those of you who are insulin resistant in here or pre-diabetic, type 2, type 1, we all know the A1C, the biggest pain in the ass out of all of it, right? It takes so long to change. It is at the minimum a 3-month average of your blood sugars over that 3-month time. But you know what? If I was upset about how slow it takes, my A1C, and I'm still not where I want to be, I'm still not at the A1C that I would like to be at, or the optimal A1C. I'm still in a dangerous range for miscarriage if I get pregnant. Still, after fighting and working as hard as I have for years, I'm a lot better than I was, but I'm still in diabetic range, right? Not quite there. But if I let how slow it's been and the fact that I'm not quite there yet bother me, I'd still be a 16, which is where I was at when I didn't give a damn about myself. It's taken me years to get to the point of just being at the cusp of having a normal A1C. And I'm not going to let the slowness of that stop me from getting what I want. What's the point when you have days that got to pass anyway? Those days pass, you either get there or you don't. What's the rush? I know why you want it, but ultimately, where's my trust fund? You know, what are we going to do? So how do we do this with you guys in CCA? This sounds like a lot, right? This is why I brought the other part of the roadblock that I see. And this is what I was talking about, especially coming out of the summer when clients just get a little bit more distant. They're busier. They're having more fun. That's not a bad thing, but we're a little bit more distant, you know, is we got to talk. We got to talk to you. You got to let your coach in, and not just the best behavior crap. The more realness you can give us, we love hearing the good stuff, don't get me wrong, but the more trouble you can share with us, the more issues that you have that you can be like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know why I keep screwing this up. Whatever negative language you want to use, whatever. We will never sit there and be like, well, what'd you do that for? It's data. in CCA, and this is what I did with my client, my own personal clients for the years that I had this business before I even had coaches. This is what I did with my coaches when they were my clients. This is what I teach them now, right? Is you got to be in touch with the bad stuff, because the bad stuff is the data. What makes you stressed, what makes you discouraged, what you don't like doing, what you have a hard time thinking of, scheduling in, whatever it is, you are here because we want to troubleshoot with you. Is it like when we have a client who's like, okay, Roger, check, doing it all, everything's great. I genuinely worry about those clients because I'm worried that they're wasting their time here with people who want to analyze the wrong stuff and help them figure it out. Because I count too. You have your coach, you have me, you have the page. There's lots of people here who want to figure stuff out together. And you're wasting it trying to impress us or yourself and just be diligent, just be good, be disciplined. But that doesn't teach anything, because as you've learned, that's not sustainable. What doesn't make that sustainable? That's what we want to find. And that's what we want to problem solve. Because if you can find the thing that screws you over and you can fix that thing, you can then do the things you need to do long enough to get to where you want to be. It's all part of a domino effect. And if we are not included in that, what can we do? It's not all about carbs. It's not all about don't eat sugar, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I know some of you guys who have been with me for a while are like, we know, but especially for the newbies in here, and especially for newbies who have never been somewhere where people want to hear this kind of stuff. It's not complaining. It's not you making excuses. It is real. You are not just some dummy who can't figure it out or just get with the program. There is always a reason that something is difficult. And if we're allowed in to help with that reason, then we can really work together on something actually being transformational. But that ain't going to look like 1 to 2 pounds a week like every Special K commercial promised you in 2010. It just doesn't happen like that for none of us, So let's see, what else do I got in here? This is a comment you guys might have heard me say before, but we don't take care of the things we don't like. If we are mad at ourselves, if we genuinely we don't like ourselves, we feel like we're crap at things, all of these things, if we feel that way about ourselves, how could we ever genuinely take care of ourselves? If we're in an environment that makes us feel terrible about ourselves, how could we ever surpass that? That's like having somebody, you feel beaten down and now you got to rise up through the odds and show the people around you that you're okay. No, triumph stories like that are for the movies. When you have a chronic illness, what's required is support. And if you can't have a supportive atmosphere, then you got to support yourself. And if that means reaching out to your coach, if it means watching these Zooms, if it means finding a buddy in the chat somewhere where you can just commiserate and it's not the pressure of coaching, whatever it is, get support. That's why you're here. That's how you're here, right? Support. So it doesn't make you a nuisance at all. And like I said, you have your coaches, but you also can contact me as well. I'd love to hear from you guys. If it's been a while, text me. I'll probably tell you, book a catch-up call with me. I want to know what's going on, but at the end of the day, don't beat yourself up and then keep that in quiet and be like, why aren't results happening? There's so much work we can do here. So, and then lastly, focusing so much on the big picture, the idea, focusing on this smaller self, this trimmer body, this body that's left alone, suddenly cured of illness, and you don't look like someone who has PCOS or Hashimoto's anymore, which was my goal for the longest time. Is I just don't want to wear it. I get it, right? But how could you just look like, wait, what did I even write here? I had a whole thing. Oh, that one day you wake up and you just look like someone totally different, right? Right? Think of every good moment missed with people, like I said before, that you're not guaranteed to have forever, spent in your head about wanting to look different. Think of all of those moments that you could have been enjoying. You could have been present, not even enjoying, but at least present, at least remember and witness, be there for it. Instead, you were in your own head about it. The people you were with, I mean, they shouldn't, but like, they don't care what size you are in those moments, right? Those missed moments, the people you're surrounded by, or, you know, the moments that you're missing, like nobody there is as mad as you are. And that's a missed opportunity. You know, so I hope that in closing, I know this one was a deeper one here, but in closing, two things I sincerely hope that everybody in here focuses on, right? To get the absolute best transformation they can out of this program is to let your coach and me in, right? Let us be here for you for support. Let us dig deeper together, right? And figure out what the problem actually is. And then remember that there is no quick way to get to the place you want to be. So if there's no quick way to get to the place you're seeking, what if you learned how to stop seeking it and let it find you? Because that is what we're doing. We're not sitting around here eating yodels and watching Maury all day and being like, health will find me. We're literally working on actual health. So what is the point of pursuing something fast, letting that not happen for you? These days have to pass anyway. See what I did there with the title? Okay, so let me go back and read these comments. I was doing the typical anorexia things like body checking and telling the whole world how skinny and sick I was so they could say, oh my God, you're so sick, you're too skinny. When I was very young, my goal was to get my dad to agree I was underweight. Once that happened, I knew I was doing the right thing. Yep. We get tunnel vision. And all we want praise for being smaller. You know, it's like, at what point is this self-harm? 17, 18, and 19 were your whore/slut years coincided with meth use. Coincidence? Nope. We don't take care of things we don't like. You know, like I know it's not, no one's going to hear this and wake up tomorrow and go, I like myself. But I do hope that hearing this helps you prioritize that, because I'm sure if we hear it about anyone else, we could agree, right? That we don't take care of the things that we don't like. But we deserve that feeling for ourselves too, that if that's where you're hearing the Zoom from, that should be the first thing you work on, because no matter what weight you are, that's going to be the constant. When I stopped checking my clothes got looser, which then triggered me to check, and then started checking more frequently. And now my clothes are tight again. Boom. And then this can even go into an annoying direction with the whole like law of attraction thing. I don't feel the greatest thinking about it that way, but when I've given the least amount of a damn about my body is when I've happened to be at my most, I don't know the term I want to use because none of it matters to me really, but you know what I mean. I've lost the most weight and I've been my smallest when I've given the least amount of thought to it. So at least 18 years, crazy when you look at the big picture. Yeah, 18 years of dieting, of trying to lose weight. Do you know most people, I forget the exact statistic, but it is most people spend the majority of their lives dieting or trying to lose weight. Here's a statistic I do know. 95% of diets fail. So most people spend their time consumed with the idea of doing something that is 95% guaranteed to fail. That was enough for me to be like, I'm tired of wasting time. I don't want to waste time. I don't want to do this. This is dumb. You know, 22 years of dieting. Yep. I've had clients answer me 40 plus years to that question. It is enough. It is enough. And if you've been doing it that long and you feel like crap and you're here and all that and you're miserable, then those methods don't work. The day's got to pass anyway. Might as well like ourselves, try to get as healthy as we can in all other ways. I mean, what wrong could come from that? You know? So try to give yourself some patience, reach out to your coaches, make sure you're prioritizing your call times, or at least if call times get overwhelming, text your coach and be like, hey, I want to reformat my program and let's find something that's more conducive to you so that you can stay on top of this with us. You know, if this Zoom stirred something in you where you're like, I don't feel like I'm utilizing this enough, send me a group message with your coach. Send one to me, send one to them, whatever. But you all absolutely deserve the time it takes, and it does take time to get to a place of actual health. Okay. And you're all amazing. Love you all. Enjoy the rest of your week. Okay. I kept it under 45 today. Woo.